This is how to loom knit a knight's helmet, and I'm going to do the beginning version first, which is what it looks like here, and then I'm going to show you, if you're a more intermediate advanced knitter, if you want to add the extra flourishes like this later on. And this is what it looks like if you wanted to crochet a trim around it. This is your supply list. And we're going to start off with the green loom, and we're going to E-wrap cast on 27 pegs. We're going to be starting from the bottom of the hat and working to the top. Leave 8 pegs free. We will add these in later for the top of the hat, but for now we're going to work flat. Just go ahead and push all your loops down, and then you want to E-wrap 27 pegs for 10 rows, and that's going to be for toddler size. On my blog I will try to include how to do that for a child. It's mostly adding rows rather than changing looms. Here you want to pause the video to complete your rows. 10 total for toddler, and I believe 15 for child. 15 or 14. Now that you've done that, you're going to cast on those 8 pegs and then E-wrap 36 pegs. So you're here, and you're going to fill those 8 pegs in to start working the top of the hat. So we're going to start working circularly now. So go ahead and E-wrap cast on those 8 pegs. Push those loops down. And then now your starting point is here, and you're going to go ahead and E-wrap 36 pegs. And you're going to E-wrap 36 pegs for a total of 10 rows for toddlers or 15 rows for an older child. Pause here to complete your rows, and we'll return to do the next section. Now for the next section, you're going to E-wrap 9 pegs total, and you're going to stop. We're now going to be working in a section back and forth. So after you E-wrap the 9, you're going to decrease by 1 on each end. And then you're going to E-wrap 7 pegs. We're basically going to be creating a triangle section here. You're going to decrease on each end again. And then you're going to ear-wrap 5 pegs. Decrease by 1 on each end again. And then ear-wrap 3 pegs. And then ear-wrap 3 pegs again. Decrease by 1 on each end down to 1 peg. Ear-wrap. Toss all those bottom loops over. And then you're going to ear-wrap again. And from here you're going to snip the end and pull it through. And you now have a triangle kind of section. And what you're going to do is you're going to tie on a loop and repeat that 9 peg section that you just did 3 more times, so that you should have 4 total triangles when you're done. So there's the 9, and there's the next 9, and there's the next 9. So repeat what we just did for 3 sections total, and you want to pause the video here to complete it. Now that you've got that, you want to tighten your cast on at the base of the hat so that it doesn't roll. If you need help with this, you can go to my techniques video to show you how to tighten your cast on. Okay. And this is what it should look like before you sew everything up. And from here I'm going to tie all my tops of my triangles together. So that I get the general shape to make it easier to sew up the space there that you want to do. So you want to sew that up, and that gives you a nice smooth top to the knight's helmet. So what I like to do is start doing a basic half knot, starting with 2 beside each other, and then move to the next one and half knot it, and move to the next one, and half knot it. And this allows you a real easy, clear line that you'll be sewing down. to close those holes up. So from here you want to sew those up, all four, and you want to pause the video so you can complete that. And when you're done, it should end up having a really nice smooth top around the head. Next we're going to do the spine of the helmet, and this is actually really simple. You're going to E-wrap cast on 6 pegs, and then you're going to E-wrap 6 pegs, and now you're going to purl 6 pegs. If you need help on understanding how to purl, I also have that in my techniques video to see how to do that. And now you want to E-wrap 6 pegs. And we're going to create a ribbed area. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to E-wrap a row like we just did, and then you're going to purl a row. E-wrap a row, purl a row. And that's going to create a ridged area. And you want to do this technique for a total of 30 rows. If you want a spine that's longer, just continue. But I found that 30 rows was enough to do that. So yeah, you continue to E-wrap 6 pegs, purl 6 pegs. And then you'll cast it off after you do a total of 30 rows. As said, pretty simple. And the reason why you want to E-wrap a row and purl a row is you don't want it to curl up, and that prevents it from curling up when you go to sew it down the top of the helmet. So continue this and then go ahead and cast it off, and then I'll show you where you want to start sewing it onto the hat or the helmet. So go ahead and pause the video to complete your spine. And next we're going to knit the face shield, and we'll assemble it all at once. So what you're going to do is you're going to E-wrap cast on 18 pegs for a toddler and 24 pegs for a child. Then you're going to E-wrap 18 pegs. And then you're going to continue E-wrapping 18 pegs for a total of 5 rows for toddler and 9 rows for child. So at this point you want to pause the video to complete your rows, and after you do that you want to decrease by 1 on each end. So we're going to start decreasing it down to put to a point, and you'll want to E-wrap 16 pegs for a toddler and 22 pegs for a child. At this point, just understanding what I'm doing here as I'm decreasing on each end to get down to a point for the face shield. And so it doesn't matter how many pegs you have. If you want the shield to be wider, you can. You just do the same amount of rows and you decrease. After you get those same amount of rows, you want to decrease by 1 on each end, just like I did here, and then E-wrap the row. Basically, we're doing just like we did at the top of the hat with the 9 pegs. We're making a triangle area. So decrease by 1 on each end again, and then E-wrap the row. And decrease again, 1 on each end. And E-wrap the row. And keep repeating this, decrease by 1 on each end until you're down to 1 peg, and you want to snip the end and pull it through just like you did at the top of the hat with the 9 pegs. And so at this point you want to pause the video to complete the face shield. Now after you do that, you want to snip the end, pull it through, and you'll need to tighten your cast on just like I did with the bottom of the hat or the helmet. So go ahead and tighten your cast on so that it doesn't roll on you. But it shouldn't roll anyway. If you wear it over the face, it should curve around the bottom half of the face nicely. And that's what it should look like. We're going to assemble our helmet now. And what you want to do is you want to sew your buttons onto the corners or in a general space to where you want the face shield to be at. I had a little bit of trouble trying to get it in screen where I have the camera, but as you can see, that's kind of where you want the face shield to go, is at the bottom corners of the hat. And you want to sew your spine down the middle, but you want to sew it in between the sewn up areas, and you want to start where the sewn up areas are at, and then you want to just follow it right down the middle of the helmet. So that's generally how you want to do that. And so sew it together and you're done, and this is what it should look like. The basic hat helmet without any additions. It's a pretty simple basic hat or helmet, and if you are more advanced knitter and you want to add some fun to it, here's some other techniques. You want to add spikes to your spine. Here's what you'll need. Some yellow yarn, and you're going to erupt cast on 24 pegs. If you've done a lot of my videos in the past, this section here is very similar to doing an ear on my stuffed animals, so you know. And if you've done my rose video, that's pretty much what I'm doing right here. So go ahead and ear-wrap 24 pegs. And if I move too fast here, you can go to how to loom knit a rose, and it pretty much goes through the same technique as I'm doing in this video. On the spine area to create spikes. And at this point we're going to start to create the spikes. So we're going to erupt 4 pegs for 4 rows. And so that's row 1. Push down, erupt those 4 pegs, and that's row 2. And erupt those 4 pegs again, which is row 3. And then erupt those 4 pegs again, which is row 4. And now we're going to work the middle 2 pegs. So erupt those 2 middle ones. And that's row 1, row 2, and row 3. We're going to go back to erupting the 4 rows, for the 4 pegs for 4 rows. So there's row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. You've just completed a single spike. And you can go ahead and complete this on the next 4 and the next 4, and you're going to do this a total of 6 times. And when you've done with that, then you're going to add your cast on back onto the pegs like you would to make a brim. So when you're done with all those, you're going to take your cast on and you're going to place it back on the pegs. So pause the video to complete your spikes. There should be 5 more to complete. And repeat what we just did for a total of 5 times. This is what it should look like when you're done. And at this point you want to e-wrap 24 pegs. And of course tossing both loops over the top. And there you have them connected. As you can see what it looks like. And at this point you want to cast off whatever way you like to cast off the 24 pegs. So whatever preference you have to cast off, go ahead and cast off all the pegs. And you want to pause the video to complete. Now that you've done that, you want to take your spine that you made, and you want to fold it in half around the bottom edge of the spikes, and you want to sew it up all the way down. And I'm going to tuck my ends in here. And so what you want to do is you want to fold it around the bottom end and sew the spikes into it. And in between the spikes and everything. So you can see what I'm doing here, and you want to do that all the way down. And try to get the base as far down as possible. So go ahead and finish sewing that up. Finish your spine, and after you're done sewing that, you want to follow like you did the previous thing to sew on the spine, lining up and everything. So of course find your two front seams, then find the middle, and then start sewing it on at the base of where you start sewing. Okay, next we're going to add the trim around the face and the bottom back of the helmet, and this is a pretty simple trim working with 3 pegs. And so go ahead and E-wrap cast on 3 pegs, and then E-wrap 3 pegs, and then you want to purl 3 pegs. And at this point you want to take that last peg and you want to E-wrap that 1 peg 7 total times. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you wrap 2 pegs back. Then you want to purl 3 pegs, and you want to E-wrap 3 pegs. This row that I'm fixing to do, the purl 3 pegs, is the starting point of this set of rows that you repeat. So this is the first row to start the next section of the trim. So purl 3, and then E-wrap 1 peg 7 times, and then E-wrap 2 pegs. That's kind of like a row 2 there. And you're creating loops. And so from here you're going to do a purl row and then an E-wrap row, and then purl with the trim of the loop, and you're going to keep doing this however many times you need to line the face area and the bottom of the helmet. And so you want to line the bottom of the helmet there, and then you want to line up the face area there. Next you want to do the horns, and I'm going to kind of do the double E-wrap technique so that you can stuff it, and it's kind of important. And I am doubling up on the yarn because you are going to have to stuff it. I don't do it at the base because you don't have to stuff it, so when you start off with the white, just go ahead and E-wrap, cast on 12 pegs. But you're going to have to your cast on has to be done 2 times. So this is like the first wrap set of 12. Push down, and then you want to go back and wrap it again. And this is your cast on here once you get done wrapping the 12. Then after you push that down, this next E-wrap of 12 pegs is your first row. And what you're going to do is toss the bottom loop over the top 2 loops. Doing it this way makes it to where you don't have to double up on your white, because you don't want this area to be too bulky anyway. Okay, so you're going to take these 3 pegs and you're going to E-wrap the 3 pegs for 4 rows, and 1 peg for 3 rows, and then 3 pegs for 4 rows. And this creates like a little spiky area around the horn. And there's row 4. And then you're going to wrap the middle peg 3 times. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now you want to go back and you want to E-wrap 3 pegs for 4 rows. Make sure that when you do your first row after the 3 wraps in the middle peg that you're going back towards the end, so that when you get done with the 4th row you can continue on. That is the object of the odd number in the middle of this set. And so you've completed that, and you're going to pull your cast on back on like we did with the spikes, and you're going to do that all the way around, and you're going to repeat that for a total of 4 times. So you got to do that 3 more times around the 12 pegs. This is what it should look like when you're done. And now you want to just E-wrap 12 pegs. And I'm going ahead and tossing all 3 loops over the top one because we're fixing to change the color to the yellow to do the horn that we're going to need to stuff with Polyfil. Okay, you've completed that section and we're needing to change the color. So snip your white end and go ahead, and I like to do a half knot, pull that through, tighten it, and then do another half knot with white. And then you want to E-wrap the 12 pegs, but don't toss over yet because we got to reset up the double E-wrap. So go ahead and E-wrap a row, push all the loops down, and then E-wrap, and this is your first row for your horns. And now you want to toss the bottom loop over the top 2 loops, just like you've been doing. And then you want to E-wrap the 12 pegs again, and toss the bottom loop over the top. You're going to do that a total of 4 times, going back and forth. Go ahead and E-wrap 12 pegs again. And don't worry, I'm going to actually show the whole process of the horn. Because there's a whole lot of rows in between the decreases. And E-wrap 12 pegs again. Okay. At this point, we're going to decrease 1 on each end. So you're going to toss the bottom loop over the top on the end one on each end. Then you're going to take that loop and put it onto the next peg. You're going to take that loop and put it onto the next peg. Now you want to E-wrap 10 pegs. And what you want to do on those decreased pegs is toss the bottom 2 loops over the top 2 to keep the standard 2 loops on each peg. So on the decreased pegs, toss the bottom 2 loops over the top 2. And then you want to E-wrap 10 pegs. And then E-wrap 10 pegs again. want to E-wrap 10 pegs again. Because we're going to decrease on each end, go ahead and knock that bottom loop over the top and then put that loop onto the next peg. Toss the bottom loop over the top and move over to the next peg. Go ahead and E-wrap 8 pegs, and on the decreased pegs, knock the bottom 2 loops over the top to keep 2 loops left on the peg. Again, decreased end, 2 loops over the top 2. E-wrap 8 pegs, E-wrap 8 pegs again, decrease by 1 on each end, so go ahead and knock that bottom loop over the top, move that loop over to the next peg. Knock the bottom loop over the top, move that loop to the next peg. Now you want to E-wrap 6 pegs, making sure to knock the bottom 2 loops over the top 2 on your decreased pegs. Go ahead and E-wrap 6 pegs. And E-wrap 6 pegs again. Go ahead and knock the bottom loop over the top and decrease by 1 on each end. E-wrap 4 pegs, making sure to toss the bottom 2 loops over the top 2 on the decreased pegs. And then E-wrap 4 pegs. E-wrap 4 pegs again. Toss the bottom loop over the top on the end ones and decrease, taking those loops and putting them onto the next peg. E-wrap the 2 pegs, knocking the bottom 2 loops over the top, then E-wrap again, and then E-wrap again, tossing the bottom 2 loops over the top. There's your horn. At this point you want to cast off as you'd like. If you want to drawstring it, you can. If you want to just cast it off regularly, you can. I'm going to drawstring it off and then sew up the horn. So you're going to sew up all the way down the edge there, and then you want to stuff your horn. And you're going to want to make 2 of these. And how you want to do is you want to sew it onto the other side at the very front of the spine, leaving about 1 inch away to 1/2 inch. And you're done. This is what it looks like completed with the nice fun horns and spikes and the trim.